Not all the Bad Batch episodes could be as amazing as the last three. I expected it. I actually expected it after Captain Rex came back. So honestly, I was very, very pleasantly surprised to see the next two after that be so insane. Like they were over the top, what I expected from the Bad Batch, especially from what we had been seeing. And I'm definitely glad that we got those episodes. And I honestly, it makes me not hate the episode that we got tonight as much as I maybe would have before those three episodes. Episode 10, Common Ground, it essentially fits in with the slower episodes from before the last three, and it's not as bad. Like, I don't know, there's something about it too, the episode, that's just not as bad, maybe as like the Martez sisters coming back, or the Bad Batch or the Bad Batch trying to free a baby Rancor, that type of stuff. Like, that stuff is just really drags on. This one, they introduce some Imperial stuff, which is pretty interesting, some fascinating Imperial turning, the galaxy's now going into the Empire era, and we're continuing to see the transition from the Republic to the Empire. And the galaxy is not transitioning well. Things aren't going well as you would expect. So the episode starts out, of course, with this on this planet or city or whatever. It's called like Nexus or something Nexus. And they start out without the Bad Batch, and they start out with the Empire taking control of this city or planet or whatever, and there's like their president or prime minister or whatever he was specifically called, or their governor, I don't know. But the guy there, he's essentially in charge of the city, but in reality the Empire is now in charge. And it starts out with the Empire wanting him to give a speech to his people, and they want him to give a speech to his people that they're with the Empire and the Empire is here to help out. And of course he sees that they're not actually there to help, and this is wrong. And he speaks out against the Empire, and they arrest him, and the Empire moves in. And yeah, you could see these Republic walkers that the clone troopers are using. So it's very interesting to see them still using the Republic tanks and weapons and machines and whatever during the Empire, the beginning of the Empire. It's super weird. It's super weird to see, but it's super cool. It's very interesting to see. Along with that, the guy's droid, he ends up wandering off to call for help because that was part of this guy's plan if something went wrong, and he was arrested speaking out against the Empire. So this ended up sending a thing to Sid, or I don't know if it was specifically sent to Sid or whatever else, but the Bad Batch is back with Sid, of course, and they're going to go off on another mission to pay off their debt with Sid. And this comes through, and this prime minister or president or whatever, this guy needs help. He needs rescuing. They need to rescue him from the Empire because he's being held right now from the Empire, and that's their job. So they're going to go out and do this mission so they could pay off their debt to Sid, which is getting really annoying to listen to, honestly. I'm really kind of tired of this paying off the debt to Sid thing. It's just getting really old. These little side missions for this random lady that just came in, I don't really care for it anymore, but it is what it is. It's still a pretty cool and action-packed episode. So they make their way to this planet, of course, and I saved this shot because it almost looks like these are like the beginnings of the TIE Fighter. I don't know if it's just me overthinking it, but these shapes of the ships here that the clone troopers were using really look like the shapes of TIE Fighters. I mean, obviously. So I wonder if that was supposed to be like some sort of little hint that this is like the beginning of the TIE Fighters. And I honestly don't know, but it definitely reminded me of that, and I think that might have been a little bit of a hint there. But the Bad Batch makes it on the planet, of course, and for some reason, I don't know why, I mean, it was a really random thought in my head, but for some reason I thought this planet looked a lot like Earth. Like, even the planet, from space, it looked like our planet. And then they get to the planet, it looks like there's normal trees and leaves and grass. It almost looks like planet Earth that the Bad Batch get onto. So it was just a little thought that I had when I was watching. But the visuals in this series are continuing to be fantastic. They're just absolutely amazing. So they meet up with the droid, and their mission is to rescue this guy, of course, from the Empire. I'm going to cut it short a little bit here. The Bad Batch essentially infiltrate the now Imperial-controlled city, and they break in and they rescue the guy. While the Bad Batch is doing that, Omega was left behind to do stuff for Sid and stay behind with Sid to watch after Omega, because Hunter does not want Omega with them right now because there's bounty hunters after her. And Sid ends up realizing that Omega's really good at playing this game, like these digital board games or whatever you'd see in Star Wars. You play for credits and whatever. And Sid realizes that Omega is a really good strategist, and that's because she's a direct clone from Jango Fett. We now know this, and she is wanting to use Omega now because Omega's really good at this. She knows how to play this game. She wants to use Omega to essentially just win a bunch of money against people playing this game. So that's kind of like the little side story to this. But again, the Bad Batch rescue the guy. They hijack one of the tanks and they kind of blast their way out of the city while they got, of course, the Empire chasing them. You got clone troopers chasing them. You got them chasing them down, shooting at them with other walkers. And essentially the Bad Batch kind of blow their way into a tunnel and then they escape. That's literally the episode, though. I mean, it's a lot of action-packed episode. It's really fun to watch, but it's definitely just kind of a basic episode. Not a whole lot actually really happens. One thing I did forget to mention is that this guy that they're rescuing was actually a separatist, and now it's really interesting to see the Bad Batch working with separatists, because now there is no separatists and Republic. The Republic and separatists are no more. That the Clone Wars are done. Okay, this is the time of the Empire. And now these people are coming together to essentially fight off the Empire and escape from the Empire. It's the new interesting rules of the galaxy, which is pretty fascinating. That is kind of like the one interesting dynamic of this episode, is that the Bad Batch are rescuing a separatist. But again, the end of the episode ends with this guy here contemplating if he even wants to leave the planet because he's running from his people. But the Bad Batch lets him know that, he needs to live to fight another day. And right now he can't do anything, but he can, live to fight another day, come back and help his people from the Empire. So they're all together with this cause to fight the Empire. And, there's early stages of a rebellion against the Empire, of course. So that's pretty cool. The Bad Batch make their way back to Sid's place, of course, and they see that Omega has been used by Sid to essentially win a bunch of money against a bunch of people playing this game. And Omega paid off the Bad Batch's debt to Sid playing this game. So hopefully this means we don't have to watch the Bad Batch go on missions for Sid anymore, and hopefully we just don't need to see that. Honestly, I wouldn't mind if we just don't see Sid again in this show ever again. She's not a bad character, but she hasn't really provided much. She's just kind of been there to provide filler episodes, I guess you could say. I don't like using the word filler, but I'm going to say filler missions, side missions. She's been there to offer the side missions for the Bad Batch, and whenever she's around, you usually get that. I wouldn't mind if she just kind of went away. I mean, unless they do something more interesting with her character, she doesn't really need to be in this anymore. Hopefully they go off now. Hopefully the Bad Batch goes off to kind of focus on different things, dealing with Crosshair, maybe the bounty hunters going after them with Cad Bane. I want to see more of Cad Bane. But again, the episode ends with Hunter and Omega kind of facing off on the game. That's it. That's literally the episode. I mean, not a whole lot happened at all. Essentially, the Bad Batch went in to rescue a separatist to pay off Sid, and they end up finding out that Omega paid their debt off anyways playing this game while they were gone. So it's almost like they didn't even need to go do this. But yeah, that's the episode. And I feel like the episode only really developed Omega's character because it shows how good she is of a strategist and how good she is at strategy. And she's able to dominate in this game. And it just once again shows her intelligence being a direct clone from Jango Fett. And it really also lets you know how well and how good of a bounty hunter Boba Fett is. It lets you know how well developed Boba Fett also is. If Omega is already this good with these things, it makes you think like this is why Boba Fett is this massive notorious bounty hunter, the same as his father. So the Fetts are really earning their name here in a lot of the new stories they're making, and I think it's really, really cool. Again, I don't know a lot of the legend stories, so I know there's a lot of Boba Fett legend stories as well, but I really like that they're developing the Boba Fett Jango Fett stuff a lot, and I'm really interested to see where they go with the Book of Boba Fett as well. But the Bad Batch episode 10, it wasn't that exciting. I mean, it was action packed, so I mean that was good. But episode 10, Common Ground, it wasn't that bad. I mean, obviously there's a lot. They're coming off a lot from the last 3 episodes with Cad Bane coming back, Fennec Shannon the last one, the Empire chasing down the Bad Batch with Crosshair, Captain Rex. They're coming off all of that, so it's gonna feel like a little less But it wasn't that bad. It's not as bad as the Martez sisters coming back. We haven't seen them again. Thank God. That's my review and kind of breakdown of episode 10, Common Ground. We'll have to see what next week comes. I think there's 16 episodes in this series, the first season. So we'll have to see what next week brings.